So let's see how you can take a piece of wood, cut some grooves in it, fill it with different color epoxies to make words or patterns, whatever you want to do. Let's see how it's done. Stay tuned. Finally got one put together. Okay, so you can see I've got this set up here. I've got Doc's Projects with a nice little border around it. I've already measured to make sure that it's going to fit on this nice piece of wood that I had. But when you see this again, I showed it to you on the last one. The router does not come with it, but everything else does, including some bits. And then you bring it on around here. And this is the little guide that you follow what you want to cut. Whatever you follow along in here, it's going to mimic it here, but it's going to do it about half size. I got to make sure when I turn it on that I've got it raised up, and then I will lower it down in. And when I'm done with each letter, I have to lift it up to make sure I clear, move on to the next letter, and keep on going. So let's see how it goes. Make sure you've got your goggles. Take a closer look. I think that's looking pretty good. So it's kind of boring watching this whole thing. If you like, you can go make yourself a sandwich and come back in about 5 minutes and we'll see what it looks like then. Pretty pleased with that. Not bad for an old man. So setting up for this next part, please make sure that you like and subscribe. Please give me some likes and subscribe to my channel. I'll make some more of these fun things for you to watch and learn how to do some fun stuff. And I will frame this out, cut it so that it fits nice within the frame. And then I'm going to fill this in with epoxy color to make it pop. Nice looking logo. Makes you want to subscribe, doesn't it? Well, let's do that. But one tip, before you put epoxy in on wood like this, you need to make sure that you seal it. I'm going to use polyacrylic. So I'm going to put this in to kind of line up the bottom here. The reason for that is the epoxy will suck into the wood tremendously. It'll keep on going and it'll draw bubbles out of the wood, which will come up and will create nasty looking bubbles all through your epoxy. You want to make sure that you seal up all the little tiny pores inside the wood. I always think of wood as a whole bunch of little tiny straws that are strapped together, and as such they contain a lot of air inside of them. I did some extensive scroll work and was real proud of it. And then when I tried to put it into epoxy, it turned out to be a mess. It was like a foamy mess full of bubbles, and it just kind of ruined the whole thing, so it ended up being a throwaway. Anyway, just wanted to kind of point that out. It's good to make sure that you're at least 75 degrees or warmer Fahrenheit. It helps to eliminate the bubbles. The bubbles will rise more quickly if it's thinner. If it's too cool, it's more like a molasses consistency. So you want to have equal parts, in this case a 1-to-1 ratio. So there's the resin, there's the hardener. Steady hands, which I normally don't really have. Ultimately, I'm going to have it to where it comes a little bit proud of the letter. Oops, a little bit too much there. Because when it dries solid, I want it to be just a little bit higher than the wood so I can take sandpaper to it and smooth it down perfectly. Okay, so now I look at it and decide, kind of looks okay, but you know what? I think maybe a little bit more. I can see bubbles forming inside of this mix now, and it's hard to tell, but I'm sure there's some in there, but I'll be taking the torch to it here in just a little bit. But let's just see how much darker I can make this. So it looks like I've got it. You can see I'm a little bit proud on this over here too, which is cured, but when I run this through the sander real good, that'll sand it all down nice and smooth. It'll become even. Okay, so I've sanded it down now to where the epoxy is nice and level with the wood all the way around it, so I don't feel any snags. It just feels nice and smooth. Now I've got this more modern look to it with the epoxy, different colors of epoxy, which kind of make it more modern. So I decided to try to get rid of most of the patina, and I'm thinking about putting a wood finish on it, penetrates stains and seals. Doesn't have to be this brand, but that's a real good brand, Minwax. And this is golden oak, it says on the bottom. So I'm thinking about doing a nice golden oak. Now one thing about this, if you decide to do some wood and do some epoxy in it, in other words you route out some holes, or what do you want to call that? It's deep into the wood. Trying to think of the right word, it'll come up later and I'll probably post it across the screen for you. But anyway, if you groove into this wood and then fill it with epoxy, the epoxy itself is similar to glass or plastic. So as far as putting stain on it, you can wipe stain across this. It'll soak into the wood and stain it, but it'll just wipe off this. So we'll see how that goes in just a minute. So without any more playing around, Doc, let's show the folks what's going to happen when we put that stain on there. Kind of like that. Might as well go all the way to the edge over here because I'm not sure exactly where the cut's going to end up, but I want to make sure I get it all. How pretty is that, huh? Remember, if you like this, please subscribe so you can see some more of my experimental projects that I do. And I love it if you leave comments below. If you saw that I did something wrong, or if you got some suggestions for my next time around, please leave some comments. I love to read those, and I will respond to those for you. You can actually see through to see the pattern of the wood underneath there. Now this is going to dry out a little bit when the stain puts on there, and then I'll put the final finish on. And when I put the final finish on, you'll see how that really pops up on the epoxy. So the stain doesn't affect the color at all because, like I said, it's kind of like a plastic. If anything, it's just kind of a clear coat on it that helps to bring out the vibrancy of it. I like that word, vibrancy. What do you think?
I like.